Hey there, my name is Elian. Have you ever looked around at your life and thought, why is this happening? Not in a curious way, but in that tired, frustrated, helpless kind of way. Maybe everything felt out of place, or unfair, or just confusing, and people would say, everything happens for a reason. But instead of comforting you, those words felt empty, like a phrase people say because they don't know what else to say. I've been there too. And maybe today you're somewhere in the middle of that moment, still waiting for the reason, still trying to make peace with something you never asked for. The truth is, not everything will make sense right away. Sometimes the reasons don't show up until later, until you're stronger, until you've healed, until you've grown enough to see it from a softer angle. And that's okay. Life isn't a neat story with all the pieces lined up clearly. It's messy, surprising, teaches us things backward, giving us the test first and the lesson afterward. You don't have to know the purpose of everything right now. You don't have to pretend it all makes sense. Sometimes, just making it through the day, that's enough, because there's something beautiful in not knowing, in saying, I don't get it yet, but maybe one day I will. That little phrase, maybe one day, it holds hope. It allows life to unfold slowly, in its own time. It lets you breathe again. Maybe something didn't work out the way you hoped. A dream fell apart, person left, path you were walking just stopped, and now you're left standing at a dead end, wondering what it was all for. But here's a soft truth I've learned. Just because you don't see the meaning yet, doesn't mean it's not there. Just because the reason hasn't arrived, doesn't mean it won't. And even if no clear answer ever comes, maybe you become the reason. Maybe you become wiser, kinder, more grounded. Maybe you become someone who can help another person walk through their dark night, because you've been there too. I know it's hard to hold on when things feel heavy and senseless, but you're not alone in that feeling. And maybe for today, you don't need a perfect explanation. Maybe what you need is permission to pause, to grieve, to feel, to not understand. It's okay to say, this hurts, I don't like this, I wish it were different, and still keep walking forward with gentle trust. You're not weak for feeling confused. You're human, and being human means living with questions. It means walking through seasons where nothing adds up, but your heart keeps beating anyway. So if today feels heavy, or uncertain, or just strange, stay with me. We'll sit with the unknown together. And maybe, just maybe, that's where something quietly beautiful begins. Section 2. The hidden gifts in pain. Sometimes pain doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't come with big explosions or movie scenes. Sometimes it's just quiet, like waking up with a heaviness you can't explain, or watching something you cared about slowly fade, even though you tried your best. Pain is sneaky like that. It shows up in moments you thought would feel joyful. It sits quietly in your chest, especially when you're alone. And it whispers doubts that sound a lot like your own voice. But here's something we rarely talk about. Pain is not just something to survive. It's something that can shape you in the most unexpected ways. Think about a time in your life that broke you open. Maybe it was a breakup, a failure, a huge change. Back then, it probably felt like the end of something. And maybe in some ways it was. But what if underneath the ending, something else quietly began? Some people say pain is a teacher, but I think it's more like a mirror. It reflects what matters to us. It reveals the parts of ourselves that are still healing. It shows us where we've been holding on too tightly and where we're ready to grow. Here's a gentle truth I've come to believe. Some of the most important parts of who you are come from things you didn't choose. You didn't ask for the heartbreak, but it taught you how deeply you can love. You didn't want the failure, but it showed you how strong your spirit really is. You didn't expect the loneliness, but in that silence, you started to hear your own voice again. Sometimes we try to rush through the pain, to fix it, to solve it, to make it go away. But what if, instead, we allowed it to sit with us for a while? What if we treated it not as an enemy, but as a guest. One who came to bring us a message. One who eventually will leave, but not without leaving behind a gift. Not all pain is punishment. Sometimes it's preparation. I've seen this in the quietest moments. A student crying over a mistake but becoming more resilient the next week. A friend going through loss, who now holds other people's grief with so much tenderness. A listener like you, showing up every day with a heart that's still a little bruised, but still open, still learning, still here. It doesn't always feel like a gift at the time. I know that. Sometimes it just feels like too much. But you're not too broken to grow. You're not too lost to be found. And no pain lasts forever, even if it lingers longer than you'd hoped. So if today you're hurting, maybe you don't need to fix anything right now. Maybe just breathe, rest, let the healing happen quietly, like rain softening the earth. And if someone told you that you should be stronger by now, you can let that go. You are strong. You are soft. You are growing even in this. Maybe the pain came to help you remember your depth. Maybe it came to make space for something new. Maybe it came to remind you you are still becoming. And that's a beautiful thing. We don't always end up where we plan to be. Sometimes life changes the map without asking. You're walking towards something you really want. A job, a person, a dream, and suddenly the road disappears. Or maybe it splits into two, and neither path looks like what you had in mind. It's strange, isn't it? The way life redirects us without explanation. You work so hard, you stay hopeful, and then something shifts, and it feels like you're back at the beginning. But here's a thought that's helped me through moments like that. Not getting what you want can be the very thing that leads you to what you need. It's hard to believe that when you're in it. When the door slams shut, when someone walks away, when the plan falls apart and all you're left with is silence. But sometimes the detour is the gift. It just takes time to see it. There was a time in my life when I had everything mapped out. I thought I knew exactly how things were supposed to go. In work, in love, in the life I was trying to build. But then, one by one, things unraveled. Project I loved fell through. Someone I trusted deeply walked out of my life. And I remember thinking, what did I do wrong? I kept asking myself that question, as if there had to be a mistake, as if the detour was proof I'd failed. But looking back now, I realize that painful chapter was a turning point. Not a punishment, but a redirection. It didn't lead me where I wanted to go, but it led me somewhere better. To a place I couldn't have imagined, but deeply needed. If things had gone the way I planned, I might not be here talking with you now. And that thought makes me grateful. Not just for the outcome, but for the detour itself. Because sometimes the life you're meant to live isn't at the end of a straight path. It's around the corner of a road you didn't expect to take. Detours can look like delays. They can feel like rejection. But they often carry a quiet kind of grace. A way of preparing you for something bigger, gentler, more aligned. So if you're feeling lost right now, if the road you were on suddenly shifted, take a deep breath. You're not off track. You're just on a different one. And maybe instead of asking, why did this happen? You can gently ask, what might this be opening up in me? Because every closed door, every unexpected turn, it asks you to trust, to let go of what was and lean into what could be. That takes courage. Not blind optimism, but brave openness. The detour isn't a failure. It's a part of your unfolding. A part of the story that will one day make sense, even if right now, it just feels like chaos. So if your plans have changed, if your life looks nothing like you thought it would, try not to panic. You're not lost. You're just being led. One small, surprising step at a time. There are moments in life that don't stop echoing, even years later. Maybe you've had one of those, a memory that still stings a little. A chapter you try not to open too often. For me, one of those chapters came in my late 20s. I was living in a city I didn't love, working a job that looked good on paper but felt all wrong inside. I remember waking up each morning with this quiet ache in my chest, like something wasn't aligned. But I stayed, because I thought I should. Because people around me said, it's a great opportunity. Because I didn't want to seem ungrateful or weak. That season taught me something I didn't know how to learn any other way. You can be doing everything right and still feel completely lost. I was showing up, checking all the boxes, smiling when I needed to, but deep down I was disconnected from myself. And every time I tried to ignore it, that ache only grew louder. One evening, I sat alone in my tiny apartment, lights dimmed, laptop open, and I started writing. Not for anyone else, not for work, just for me. And in that quiet moment, I heard something my heart had been trying to say for months. You're allowed to want something different. That sentence cracked something open. It didn't fix everything overnight, but it gave me permission to listen, to really listen, to what my life had been trying to tell me. Eventually, I left that job. I moved to a new city. I started over slowly, quietly, with no clear plan. But every step felt more like me. Now, when I look back at that chapter, I don't feel shame or regret. I feel compassion. For the version of me who stayed too long. For the girl who smiled through meetings and cried on the walk home. For the heart that was learning, even while it was breaking. And I wonder, if I could sit across from that younger Elian now, what would I say? Maybe something like, I know you're tired. I know it doesn't make sense right now. But you are not failing. You are just in a season that's teaching you who you really are. You see, we don't always recognize the turning points when we're in them. They feel too messy, too uncomfortable, too uncertain. But sometimes, pain is how truth gets our attention. Sometimes, confusion is the space where clarity starts to bloom. And even if you don't see the full picture yet, you're still becoming someone stronger, wiser, more honest. If you're in a season like that right now, where you're doing everything you can, and it still feels like not enough, I just want to say, you're not alone. You're not broken. You're just in the middle. Give yourself the same kindness you'd offer someone you love. Sit with your past, not to shame it, but to thank it. It brought you here. It taught you things no book or teacher ever could. Your past doesn't define you, but it does shape you. And if you listen closely, it might still be whispering a little wisdom today. So if you could have a conversation with your past self, what would you say? Maybe it's time to finally say it. Gently. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that only comes when we stop forcing everything. When we stop demanding answers. When we stop trying to fix our feelings like they're problems to solve. Maybe you've noticed it too. That soft shift inside you when you finally let go of needing to understand everything right now. When you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start whispering, what can this teach me gently? We live in a world that celebrates fast turnarounds, quick healing, clean resolutions. But real life doesn't usually work that way, and neither does your heart. Healing is not a checklist. Growth is not a race. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is allow life to teach you gently. You don't have to push yourself so hard to get it. You don't have to pretend you're okay when you're not. You're allowed to take the slower path, the quieter one, the one where you rest more, listen more, feel more. Let life be your teacher, not your judge. Let your confusion become curiosity. Let your sadness become softness. Let your setbacks become invitations to pause and start again with more care. You are not here to figure everything out today. You are here to live this moment fully as it is, even if it's uncertain, even if it's tender. Because the truth is, most of the time we don't realize we're learning until much later. We look back and see that breakup helped us rebuild our self-worth. That failure made us brave enough to try something new. That season of loneliness helped us hear our own voice again. It wasn't obvious in the moment. It wasn't graceful. It just was, and it mattered. So maybe the most honest thing we can say is this. We don't always know what's being formed inside us. But something is. A stronger spirit, a more open heart, a steadier kind of peace. And maybe that's the real meaning behind everything happens for a reason. Not that life is perfectly planned. Not that pain is deserved. But that growth finds us, even in the mess, even in the waiting, even in the things we wish had never happened. So if you're in a hard place right now, don't rush out of it. Don't demand clarity before it's ready to arrive. Stay soft. Stay open. Let life teach you gently. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're becoming. If this episode helped you feel even a little bit more understood, I hope you hold that feeling close tonight. I hope you remind yourself, you don't have to force the meaning. You can live the questions. And slowly, quietly, the answers will come. I'd love for you to share this episode with someone who might be walking through a confusing chapter of their own. And in the comments, tell me what's one lesson life has taught you. Gently, let's gather those little pieces of wisdom together. Let's remind each other that we're not walking this path alone. Until next time, be kind to your story. Be gentle with your becoming. And remember, even in the silence, even in the unknown, you are still growing.